selected 8 remarkable young women in their field of activity or skill, and the 8 winners will benefit from a tailor-made training course. It's an initiative that is part of the Women in Africa's desire to promote equal opportunities and to allow young leaders to be supported each year to go further. For today's session, I'll be in conversation with Lydia Hlongwane. Lydia is the managing director of the I.C.A.R.E group of companies, the co-founder of I.C.A.R.E, a life coach, a leadership maestro for South African chapter, motivational speaker, and for the next, so Linda, welcome and thank you for being here today.
Hi, Lisa-Marie, thank you very much for having me.
So I just want to give a little bit of information. So for the next 45 minutes, I'll be in conversation with Lydia. And then for 15 minutes, I'll open the floor for questions. So please do put any questions in the chat box. If you're on Zoom, if you're watching on LinkedIn, you can put it in the comments. Wherever you're watching, there should be an option for you to put some comments in. It's really beneficial, especially if you've got questions or you want to find out more about Lydia's journey, how she got into something. Putting your questions forward is great. Also raising your hand if you want to ask the question directly to Lydia is also great. So Lydia, let's get started. The first thing I want to find out, so you work as part of I.C.A.R.E group of companies. What exactly do you do?
Okay, so I am the managing director. I am the founder of I.C.A.R.E group of companies. I.C.A.R.E means flower, which in my language, I.C.A.R.E represents maiden, a young woman. So when I created the company, it was to solemnly stand up for the young women in the rural villages of South Africa. So
there's many parts to it. Okay, so there's many parts to it. What specifically? Because when I had a look, and I just mentioned it's also construction. So break it down a bit, because there's a wide variety of things that you actually do.
Okay, so we are in media, we are in communications, we have construction, we have publishing, book publishing in it. We now just added beauty and hair. So there's a variety of things that we do at I.C.A.R.E. But the most important thing that I'm currently handling is the communications part of it. And now what has now become my second baby in the whole group of companies, it's the hair. It's a company that is going to be dealing with products that produces only products for ethnic hair.
Okay, so it's a wide variety of things that you're involved in. How did you first get started? Because there's so many different avenues. You've got media, you've got construction, you're now doing hair. How did you initially get started on your first project and then branched out to do all the other things that you're doing now?
Okay, when the company started, we're a group of young women from a village called Hammanskraal in South Africa. It's a small town that is a semi-village and semi-urban, I can say that. So after graduation, I was working for the city, meaning the government, but only focusing on the city in the province. And I realized something. There was something that I was doing with Operation Hope by John Bryant, which was focusing on young people, on facilitating workshops for young people in the country. And as I was walking through the journey, I realized that in most of these things, young women tend to be excluded because we are from that patriarchal society that says a young woman is supposed to stay at home and not do any work. Your husband goes to work for you, and you just sit at home and be nothing. And if it happens that your marriage dissolves, you leave with the bag that you came in with. And when I was sitting with my friends on a Saturday, I was at home and I said to them, you know what? So I was busy designing jewelry at the time. So I said to them, I think that since we all have different types of talents, how about we start a company? So how it happened is that the young ladies, two stay on the left house near my home, my parental home, and the other two stay on the left, on the right. So every day our parents would ask us, what are you guys busy concocting under the tree? And we just said, one day you guys are gonna see. I remember we asked my mom for like 175 rands at the time, because to register a company, it was that much. She gave us, and we asked for 250 rands to open a bank account. She gave us that, and we left. When we came back, I came back and I said to her, me, Penny, and Faith were going to register a company. We want to start and see what is going to happen in the community if we start this. So we started the company and the foundation concurrently. So it was happening. One was registered a month back and one was registered the following month. So that's what motivated us, because we are from a society where young women amount to nothing. Most of them dropped out of school because of teenage pregnancy. If you graduated, you are sitting at home and doing nothing. So we were like, you know what? We are not going to be a part of statistics. I am working. I can fund most part of the money, but we are going for this, and we did.
And what do you think is different about your journey in particular, as you mentioned the society that you're within, but you were able to come together, bring your friends together, set up these businesses? What motivated you? What inspired you?
What inspired us was that most of the most successful people in our province, in our village, in our country, most of them are not women, they are men. And what inspired us was our mentor at the time. At the time, we had a male mentor, and that's what really surprised a whole lot of people, to say that, what are these young women doing with this old rich man? And the only thing we went there and said to that man was, can we please learn from you? We want to learn how to run a business, a successful business, how to bridge the gap that we are seeing in the community. What is it that is there? And as you know, your construction, jewelry, and mining, most of them are male-dominated things, are male-dominated jobs. And now here we are as a group of young women saying, you are a mining magnet in our country. We want to learn from you. So that really inspired us a lot. It pushed us to the best of our ability to say that we want to learn how to do this, and we are going to be successful. We are going to bring this change in our community.
And how many years have you been working as part of the I.C.A.R.E group?
The I.C.A.R.E group started in 2017. So okay. It has been over 5 years now.
And how has it been for you?
Right now, because of the growth that is happening, I think I am ready to say that let's hire more people. Let's. I am at that stage of wanting to give it back to the community, to allow it to help the community more, because it is growing, and the more it grows, the more I need to give more back into the community.
You had a mentor, this man that you were able to get this information from.
Yes.
What are you doing now? Do you have mentors now who are helping to support you in the different things that you're doing, or is it still the same person?
It's no longer the same person. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2020. So from 2020, I've had a a person that I account to. I don't have a mentor anymore. I just have a person that
partner.
Yeah, so I account to one of the advocates that groomed me in my journey of law. So I account to him most of the time. Even today, before this meeting, I had a meeting with him. He wanted to know why this was not done, why this was done, and what is going on. So I account to him most of the time, but currently I do not have a mentor. I am still in talks with well-known businessmen that I look up to, whom I believe that can be a great mentor to me.
You mentioned men as your mentors, which you said people were quite surprised about. Are there women as well that you would be interested in being mentored by, or also mentoring younger women?
I am mentoring younger women. I am mentoring 8 young women, and they are in different spaces of their lives, which forms part of the group. But I am currently mentoring 8, and yes, there is one South African powerhouse that I have been in talks with, on a few dates with, that I am thinking could be a great mentor. The only thing is that when I spoke to my accountability partner, he said to me, the older woman is an older version of me. So what do I think I am going to be learning from her that I have not learned already? And when I was not able to answer that question, I was like, okay, maybe I need to go back to my drawing board as to why do I need her as a mentor, because I could not account for certain aspects that I said, this is why I'm looking for her as a mentor. So currently I'm back on a drawing board. I am looking for reasons why I should have her as a mentor. And once I have that reason, I am sure that I will be able to approach her with that particular reason.
So as well as running the Mbali group of companies, you also head up the Mpumalanga Creative Arts Summit, which is changing lives. Can you explain a bit more about what that is?
Okay, so my work is divided into 3. There are 3 things that I do. There's the Mbali group of companies. There is I.C.A.R.E. It's an organization, an NPO, or a non-government organization. Then there is Changing Lives Foundation. So the Mpumalanga Creative Arts Summit, it's an art summit that happens annually in a place called Mpumalanga. That is together arts practitioners from all over the world to come and impart their knowledge on the young people in Mpumalanga. So Mpumalanga is a province in South Africa.
You mentioned I.C.A.R.E. as well. Can you explain a bit more about that and what you do?
Okay, at I.C.A.R.E, I am the founder and currently the manager of that. We advocate for young people that are misdiagnosed, mistreated, and that suffer from any rare diseases that the South African government is not aware of or find new to them. That's what we do. And we ensure that those that are misdiagnosed are fought for and their rights are exercised, because when we started that, we found that most of the young people in South Africa are misdiagnosed and nobody wants to account for it. I am sure if you follow South African news, you will see that there was a story of young woman, actually that is a very close friend of mine, a young woman who went to a hospital as a teenager to give birth. and a doctor took a decision to take out her womb to prevent her to give birth again as a young person, saying that they were preventing her to give birth again anytime soon. But now that she's older and she's supposed to be a mother to kids in her marriage, she discovers that she does not have a womb, or rather a uterus is absent in her body.
Oh God, that's horrific.
That's very horrific, because right now, as we speak, more women are coming out. I think right now there are over 8 women that have discovered that actually in your body there's no womb. It was taken out when you were 17 or 18 or 19, because a certain doctor at a certain hospital decided that young Black women give birth more. So he was trying to cap the amount of babies that are born.
So how is that something that you got involved with? Is it something that, I mean, you've mentioned this person that you knew personally. Was it after that, hearing that story, that you thought, okay, this is something that I want to explore and help support people to access the correct medical help that they need?
No, I got involved when my younger sister was misdiagnosed with tuberculosis. And years later, we discovered that she has what we call pulmonary hypertension. So what happened is that a hospital decided to give her medication for tuberculosis for a whole 6 months as a baby. And as she grows, a certain professor checks on her, and they say that she will not even live up to the age of 2 years. And parents just accepted that. So as she was growing, we realized that her lungs are not that okay. So now when she was being taken to specialists, we discovered that she has what we call pulmonary hypertension. So she had hypertension in her lungs, not in her body. The hypertension was affecting her lungs, and her lungs were collapsing most of the time. So one moment she's okay, she's breathing fine. One moment she cannot breathe on her own. She needs oxygen therapy. And the specialist asked us the history of what happened for her to reach where she is. And when we explained that she was diagnosed with tuberculosis at the age of 6 months, and it was asked, how did they know that she has tuberculosis? Was there somebody at home who had tuberculosis? Did we have a smoker? Was she exposed to anything of some sort? And the answer that we got from her files was that nobody knew what was wrong with her lungs from when she was born. So a decision was taken that it could be that my mother was exposed to tuberculosis. So a doctor took a decision to diagnose her like that. And after diagnosing her like that, now when we are asking to say which doctor took that decision, it was like, you know, when you are dealing with a ghost of a doctor, we were really dealing with a ghost, because the signature was not being recognized by anybody. We just knew the hospital that made the diagnosis, but now when we asked who signed here, nobody knew. When we asked,
a difficult time, but you were also able to raise some funds for rare diseases. You raised over, was it $240,000?
Okay, Lisa, I did not get that. I think my connection was a bit.
It's a little bit jumpy. I was saying you've been able to raise almost $240,000 for rare diseases. Am I right?
Yes. So for the last few years, we have raised, I think the first one was 2.7 million. And the second one was 1.8 million that was raised for rare diseases. So the first one was for a young lady who needed a bilateral transplant. She also had pulmonary hypertension, and she needed to remove both her lungs and get new lungs. So we were able to successfully raise that and for her to get a transplant. And the second one was for a 7-year-old. The story of a 7-year-old, I always tell it. So since she was born, she had never been outside. I think when I got interviewed for WIA, that's one of the stories that caught the panel, because they kept on asking me, where is she? And I said, right now she's at school. I wish she was here so that you can see the person I'm talking about. Unfortunately, she passed away. She passed away in 2021, which happened from something else, not even what after a successful transplant, she had a heart failure and passed away. But she had not been outside for a period of 7 years. When I met her, she was 5 years old. She was turning 6. She was supposed to have started school, but she had not started school. And we tried to find out what is wrong. And her case was similar to my younger sister. Her similar was a misdiagnosis. And now when a specialist sees you, they say to you, it was not that. This is what is the problem. This little girl actually had holes in her heart, but they were focusing on the lungs. So by the time she had a heart transplant, she had damaged her trachea. The tubes that take air to the lungs were already damaged by then, because the heart was struggling. It could not pump enough blood to the system.
Well, it's very happy that the work that you're doing is so pivotal, because you're able to touch lives and also help to support them to get the medical help that they do need. I want to move on to some other parts of the work that you do. You're very varied across different types of things, as you've mentioned. But one thing in particular that I read about you is that you also do a campaign called Groom a Child. Can you tell us a bit more about what that is and why specifically you decided to start Groom a Child?
Okay, so in 2013, there was an issue of a high pregnancy rate in Pretoria, specifically Hammanskraal. So if anybody was to go on statistics and look at what Hammanskraal was going through at that particular time, at that particular time, I think they were saying 7 out of 10 girls would drop out before finishing their secondary schooling, because they would fall pregnant and could not go back to school anymore. And as a young person who went to school and had a mother who could speak to me about sexual orientation, speak to me about puberty, speak to me about menstruation and all that, I saw it befitting to start that particular campaign, because I felt like the Department of Education was only focusing on the girl child, but forgetting the boy child. Therefore, when we started that particular campaign, it was to speak to both the boy and the girl child. So in that campaign, we do it quarterly at schools. So quarterly, we remind them who they are, how their bodies are growing, and what changes are to be expected, and what happens if you were to have sex that is unprotected, and what really is sex, and when is it the right time to have that sex that we are talking about. And we also ensure that they have, those small necessities that a girl child would need or a boy child would need are the reason that these young people are getting into all this, are engaging into sex prematurely, whether be it with an adult who is working, be it with a schoolmate who's a class higher. And again, it was because of classification of wealth. So most of the young people or the girls that were falling pregnant were the girls who are from what we call the poor of poorest registers in South Africa. And when we discover the reason would be at home, it's so bad that they need something. Either they need toiletries, they need food, or they need school uniform or clothing. And they exchange that for sex. So that is why I started that particular campaign. And what we did in that campaign was that we started a hashtag. The hashtag was #Take Your Power Back, meaning the power that you gave to that sugar daddy that you have, take it back. You can take it back because there is a sister who is willing to adopt you on a monthly basis and say, your toiletries are covered. You need new underwears, you need toiletries as a boy child. There's an elder brother who's saying, I'm gonna adopt you every month of your entire high schooling until you get to matric. And when they get to secondary, the last class of secondary, we ensure that we let companies adopt a student with the highest results. And that student is taken to university. So from that program, since it started, I think we now have 25 graduates who are graduates and who are giving back into the program. So I adopted the 25, now the 25 are adopting 25. I now adopt another 25, and that 25, when they are done with their schooling, they need to adopt another 25.
So you've impacted so many people, so inspirational. But I wonder, and maybe people who are tuning in might be interested, if they have an idea to want to start a particular campaign, whether it's helping to support people in whatever industry or area, what were the steps that you took to be able to start, number one, start that campaign and also fund it?
Okay, so with us, it's quite different because it's self-funded. So I.C.A.R.E is supporting the projects. It's our way of giving back into the community. And we have partnered with the Department of Health and the Department of Education and a few companies. So the few companies, I would mention a few. It's a law firm called Moche Attorneys, and then it's Procter & Gamble, and it is Always. So the reason why we partnered with Procter & Gamble was because I was part of I.C.A.R.E. So I'm a I.C.A.R.E. alumni. And they were part of I.C.A.R.E. sponsors. So when I met their representative there, Ms. Kuliliwe Mabaso, at the time, I then explained what I do. And when I explained what I do, she said to me, drop me an email. I'm not sure whether she thought I'm joking or I'm not going to drop the email, but I sure did. And I would pester her until she was like, you know what, let me give you to somebody who deals with this. And I met a young lady called Muhau, who's also passionate about young women and sexual orientation at Procter & Gamble. And that's how I started. So what I would say is this part, have a reason for doing everything that you're doing. Know why you are doing it. Because if you know why you are doing it and what you wish to see from it, you will not fall back and you will not give up on the way. And do not be scared of approaching companies, even if you see that you do not have certain things that they need from you. let's say, for example, South Africa is very big on compliance. So ensure that your compliance documents are always compliant. And when you're approaching these people, if you're a young company, you need to be passionate about it. Be able to tell your story. No one will tell your story for you. If your story was motivated by your own background, be able to tell it, because no one is going to tell it for you.
Good advice. Another part of what you do is life coaching. So you help teaching others. Was this something that you always wanted to do, or something that you kind of just fell into?
Okay, I kind of fell into that because I always had young people coming back and like, hey sis, this is what is happening. I'm not sure how to handle this. And you give advice and just, let it go. And I realized that I'm this person. If you have a particular problem that you wanted to solve, I will not let you go until you solve it, because I would always ask you, so how did it go? Can you kindly explain to me what you did after we spoke? And that kind of made people ask me a lot to say, why are you not coaching? You can be a business coach, a life coach. And I was like, with my work schedule, I don't think I can. But it started with one person, and now it's something that I do, that even companies call to say that we need a coach for this particular session. Are you willing to come and do it? So I kind of fell into it. It started as something that I would do once in a while to a child from the area where I used to stay, but now it's something that I do professionally.
Is there a similar theme people have when you're coaching them? For example, is it confidence? And what would you say is the overriding theme?
Yes, confidence. So most young people, I think, do not know how to enter into a room and grab it without saying too much. So most people do not know that if you wear your confidence greatly, you are bound to win everybody's heart wherever you go. So most of the time, when I speak on confidence, I remind them of who they are and how to treat others with dignity, because once a person is stripped of their dignity in things that are happening around them, they lose their confidence a lot.
And what advice would you give to someone who might go into a room and want to be able to grab it, but they're not necessarily that confident?
Like I said before, Lisa, nobody can tell your story better than you. And you need to be confident about your story to the point where when you tell it, you need to tell it until somebody can want to relive the story that you are telling, to say that, okay, I really want to ask her more on that. Because once you lose a moment of telling people about what you do and confidently doing it, you will never get it again. The story that says the first impression counts, it's not a lie. What you say to me in our first encounter is what I will remember you with. So each time you enter into a room, remember the people in that room need to remember you. And the question that you need to ask yourself is, how do I want to be remembered?
Good advice. Now, you have an accountability partner and you're thinking about potentially having another mentor, but who supports you? Is it your family network? What kind of network do you have that helps support you do the things and do the work that you do?
I think my assistant is somebody to die for. I wouldn't trade her for anything. That's number one. Like even now, I am not at work. I have not been well. but I can tell you the office is running smoothly so. So I think having the people that I have, my family, the employees in the company, my accountability partner as well, and some of his staff who are allocated sometimes when I'm not coping with something to assist me with those things. I think my solid structure would be my family. My sisters and my brothers are the most supportive cycle I've ever had. And I know that most people are not expecting this. Actually, my accountability partner, it's a life partner, but I account to him on a daily basis.
It's interesting. I want to move on to WIA and the young leaders. So you're part of this, you're part of the 8 that was selected. And I want to find a bit more about your own journey, because you all were, the names were announced last year and you've been able to do a few different things and interact with each other. So number one, what was the reason for applying for it in the first place?
So when I applied at first, it was to expand. I'm one person that believes that in each and every program, there's a possibility of partnerships and exchanging of goods and services that you offer. So when I went into the program, I told myself that, you know what, I've always said that I want to see a United States of Africa. And here are African sisters who are supposed to come together into this program. I'm gonna apply because I want to be part of the united systems that are gonna come after this program. And I am so glad that I did.
And what was it like meeting the other women who took part?
You know, our first meeting was such a funny story, but when we met, it was like we knew each other for years, because we first met Lydia Merouge. We first met her at the hotel, and when we met her at the hotel, oh, I met the other 2 ladies. It was it Femi? Yes, I think it was Folake. I met Folake and Tamara first. And then we met Lydia, then we met Grace, then we met Kemi. When we were sitting in that restaurant, it was like we met years ago, and we're actually having a get together of some sort to say that it's our anniversary of meeting many years ago. Now we are here. So that was one of the most weirdest thing that has ever happened, because when we met, it was like, these are my sisters, I know them, I've met them years ago, but we're actually meeting for the first time. And I think we also got a question a lot from the other people that we met through the journey, who said, is it the first time you guys are meeting? And when we say yes, like, wow, okay. So you can already answer for that one and already answer for that one. It's like, yeah, that's how it goes.
Sounds like a wonderful sisterhood group of women coming together. Now, as part of the Women in Africa's Initiative Young Leaders program, you also got to travel. Were you one of the ones that got to travel to Paris?
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about that experience and what happened?
So that experience actually opened a lot of ideas in my brain, because when we got to Paris, we just put down our bags and had to take a quick shower, go to our first meeting. That was the first sign of always be prepared to tell your story, because we met some of the most powerful businessmen and women in France. And now you are being given an opportunity to say, tell me about what you do and how can I help you? So we needed to know what we are doing, what you want to highlight about yourself on the spot. And hearing other WIA laureates actually talking about themselves made me kind of feel like, okay, I have been highlighting myself, not telling all about myself. And it kind of made me relax as the journey continued. From the first meeting, I think from the first meeting to the third meeting, they would swear they met a different person, because now I was now saying, okay, I think I'm in the right space to talk about myself. I can talk about myself. I can tell everybody what I do. I have to be comfortable enough, and I have to be as honest enough as possible so that whoever is hearing this can help me with what must happen next. So the journey was very interesting. And again, going to the presidential house was one of the highlights of the trip, because I realized that there are so many similarities between the different countries and what the different countries are actually wishing for one another. The only thing that is missing is partnerships and linkages between the different countries.
What advice would you give to someone who might want to apply for WIA's Young Leaders Program?
Okay, I would say to somebody who wants to apply, when applying, put your whole heart in it. Let it not just be any other application, because the people you are meeting when you get there took their time, firstly, their space, and they are willing to invest in you. So when you are telling your story, tell it like somebody who has everything to lose. When they apply for this, they must not look at it as something that I might get or I might not get. They must apply like they are fighting to get it. Because from 3,000 to 8 laureates, that's a whole lot of cutting down to do.
Good advice. Now, I'm going to open up the floor now to questions, because I can see that we've got quite a few, and I want to make sure that we have enough time to go through as many as we can. There's a question from Mercy. Mercy's asking, do you have volunteers who help you in doing the community services?
Yes, we have volunteers that actually handle each and every project in the community work. So what happens is that it depends on where the project is happening. If, let's say, for example, in I.C.A.R.E, the Groom a Child campaign, the Groom a Child campaign has an ambassador in each and every province, because there should be a place where the kids need to fetch their toiletries in that particular province. So those are our volunteers. And the part of the tutoring, the people that are tutoring the kids in the organization, they are volunteering, they are not paid. It's young professionals. We have economists, we have accountants, we have engineers that are tutoring and mentoring young people who are in the same field as them. And that is a volunteer job that they're doing.
I hope that answered your question, Mercy. Now we've got a question from Lisa Atieno. From a mentor's perspective, what causes you to take on someone as a mentee?
Okay, firstly, you need to show me that you are willing to learn. And you need to show me that whatever that you are learning, you are putting it to good use. Because you cannot be learning from me and not be doing anything about it. If I am mentoring you as a businesswoman, I at least expect you to start some form of a business and come to me with a proposal one day. So I cannot mentor you and not see progress. I was so excited. One of my mentees has recently completed her registration process of her company. And she was so excited when she got to me. She was so excited. And I said, I see your excitement, but when is the starting date? Have you called your producer of the stuff that you're doing? When are you starting? You can be excited about the registration, but when are you starting? Because I'm about to let you go as a mentor. Now, the mentorship program is ending. I need to take on other people. Can you tell me when are you starting your company? So be willing to learn and show me what you are learning is being put to good use. You cannot be mentored and learn nothing from me.
Question from Pauline. Are there moments you felt like quitting? And if yes, what motivated you to stay on? And if no, what is the same motivation pushing you to stay on?
There are so many moments where I felt like quitting. There are days where I deal with young people that have a rare disease. Let me give you that example. And I myself, I have a rare disease, right? There are days where I feel so drained that I want to quit. I want to give up on this whole thing. But again, I look at them and I look at how their faces light up when I enter into a room where they are. And how they always say to me, Ma, you are our last hope. And I realize that I cannot give up, because me giving up is them giving up. If I give up, somebody out there is giving up. So I cannot give up.
A question from Christabel Amondi. What's the difference between an accountability partner and mentor?
So an accountability partner is somebody that if you set your goals and share them with you, they always remind you that this is what you said you're gonna do. Did you do it? This is what you're supposed to do. Did you do it? So it's like the back of your mind. An accountability partner is like the back of your mind. In case you forget something, there's somebody to remind you to do that. While a mentor is somebody that is doing what you aspire to become. And because you're aspiring to become that person, you walk on a daily basis with that person, learning from that person. And there will come a time where that person has to say, you are now ready for the world, to face the world on your own and become a mentor to somebody else. I am letting you back into the community. So that is the difference.
A question from Blessing. Are you fulfilled with your involvement with the WIA program and your organization's activities?
Right now I am. Actually, I have a very interesting story to share. So through the WIA program, I am getting involved in a project that is done by the French government. So the project is being done in South Africa, and they then asked for a meeting because they read my bio on the WIA website, and I think they heard about me on the WIA website, and then they decided to approach WIA to find out about me. So it is through WIA that some of the partnerships that I now have in business, in as an organization, that those projects are coming about. It is through WIA. So I'm quite fulfilled, and I'm still hoping to do more through WIA as well.
A question that's kind of similar on the accountability partner, but it's from Gloria. And she's asking, besides an accountability partner, are there business books and resources you could recommend?
I would say when you have time, do short courses on business administration and ensure that whatever path that you want to take, you align it with your academics. Because once you divert from that, immediately when you divert from that, you get lost in the midst of chaos in business. So if you get into business right now and you had no clue on what business administration is, you are signing a recipe for disaster, because the first thing that you need to do is know how to do a business plan, know how to present your business plan, know how to propose a business, know how to approach people. And you can only do that from learning. There are free online courses that are there where you can learn on how to run a business. Attend as many workshops as possible from different companies that are offering workshops on businesses. Ensure that you find yourself people of like minds. Do not sit with people that do not have the same vision as you. Once you start finding yourself in the midst of people that are like mind with you, it is so easy to learn from each other.
Winnie's asking, how do you balance all these commitments?
The only thing that makes me balance is because I have a lot of support behind me. I don't do everything on my own. I mean, I was in Paris, I was in France, I was in France, I was in Egypt. When you're traveling all these countries, sometimes you're in China, sometimes. So when you're traveling and you're doing all these businesses, there needs to be a community of people that are taking care of things when you're not there. So when I'm not there, I am coping because I know that I left people that are capable. I remember in one of the meetings, I said to the laureates, I think I am ready to retire when I'm like 45. And they said, are you sure? I said, yes. After the training that I had at KPMG, I realized that I do not have to be involved in everything in the company. Therefore, I can just delegate and sit down and relax. So I have my moments where I am on leave and nobody can bother me because the company is running.
A question from Esther. Thank you, Lydia. Your entrepreneurial journey and motive is inspiring. My question is, what's your best advice for hiring and retaining the right staff, team members for your company and businesses?
Okay, so I'm going to summarize this. Let me give you a little bit of a story. Right now, let's say you are in construction and you hired the head of the department, who is a civil engineer. That's a construction specialist. If you are in communications and you hire a qualified journalist, that is a specialist. If you hire a lawyer in the legal department, that is a specialist. So I would advise that the best that you can do is to ensure that you intern a lot of graduates who are going to be learning from the specialists, so that even when the time for the specialist to leave comes, you are able to uplift one of the interns who were learning from the specialists to become the head of that particular department. So I am for that. I'm for saying give students a chance, because the student, when learning from a professional, they are aspiring to become a professional at the end of their training. Therefore, should the specialist decide to leave, you are left with another specialist who was in training. And that gives you a chance to, instead of losing more money hiring somebody new, you are just reducing a cost somewhere and actually uplifting somebody. So when I uplift one intern, I am left with money that was supposed to be for another intern. I stand the chance of hiring another intern. So that's that.
Jennifer's asked, how have you been able to collaborate with the healthcare systems in managing most of these health conditions? So the work that you do in helping people get the right diagnosis, how were you able to get that partnership?
So in South Africa, I think there's a contract that the healthcare has with a certain company that supplies oxygen machines. So when it comes to the work that I do, mostly what the young people need is the supply of oxygen. And because they stay in areas that are not safe, these companies that supply them with oxygen, with home oxygen, cannot enter into that particular area because it is not safe. So what we have is that I have close contact with the person that is responsible for most of the hospitals in Gauteng, let's say, for example. And if a child is in need of being taken to hospital, in need of oxygen, in need of medication, I'm able to just send a WhatsApp message to say, good morning, ma'am. Please note that this patient, this house number, this and this and this and this and this, the diagnosis was this, has not received portable oxygen tank or has not received medication because of payment, because of this and this and this and this. And the Department of Health is able to actually help that child at that particular moment. We've had an issue where a child was being catered for with oxygen at a church because South Africa is currently facing power cuts. But I was so surprised that a director in the Department of Health was able to listen to my plea at that time and ensure that that child is supplied with oxygen. When I looked at the time, I think it was 1 a.m. in the morning. You can imagine when you are sending a director in a department at 1 a.m. saying, I have a child who does not have oxygen. And the person is able to say, I am going there now.
It makes a life-saving difference to be able to have that. We've got 1 minute left. So there's a question that keeps coming up from a lot of people, and that's how can they get in touch with you? A lot of people would like to connect.
Okay, I am on LinkedIn as Lydia Hlongwane. I am on social media everywhere. I am there on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. On Facebook, I have my second name is Lydia Hlongwane. And on Twitter, everywhere it's Lydia Hlongwane. And my email address is lydia@I.C.A.R.E.organization.co.za or hlongwanelydia96@gmail.com. So they can get hold of me there.
So there's plenty of options there for you to be able to get in touch with Lydia.
Yes.
Unfortunately, our time has come to an end, but I hope I've learned so much, and what an incredibly busy woman. So thank you so much for taking part in this and also for applying for the Women in Africa's Young Leaders Programme. And I'm happy to hear that you're getting so much out of it. And thank you everyone who has listened in today as well and put your questions. I hope you've also learned a lot from this discussion. So Lydia, again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa-Marie, for having me.